welcome to the Brawling Pit. We talk about all things casual and kitchen table magic like Brawl and EDH. You are listening to episode 56. I'm Johnathan, and here's Jacob.
Ahoy!
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm not bad, man. How are you?
I'm pretty good. I do have a question though.
Okay, what's your question?
What are some things that you wish you would have known when you first started playing Magic: The Gathering?
Honestly, well, I think the first thing that comes to mind is I wish I had known how expensive this game was, because then I'd just never play.
This game is expensive indeed. Yeah.
Yeah, I would just not play. I'd just be like, oh, this game's that expensive?
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
good. Pass,
Yeah.
Move on.
Yeah. I mean, but other than that though, right? Other than that, let's talk about a couple of things that we wish we would have known when we first started playing. So maybe you guys out there, if you're relatively new to the game, you'll be able to learn from a mistake and kind of shortcut into where the more enfranchised players are. Or if you're already playing for a long time, you can just be like, oh yeah, I wish I knew that too. Or you can be like, oh no, I don't agree at all. And then you can yell at us on email. All right.
We only ever get emails.
You can also yell at us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and whatever platform you want to. All right. So the first thing I wish I would have known when I first started is you should buy singles, but not packs. Buy singles. It's going to be a lot cheaper than opening packs, getting a lot of cards that you don't need.
I feel like we talked about this literally last episode.
We talk about this all the time. It's just something in general that you should keep in your mind. That
Yeah,
packs,
so if you're looking for something, like in particular, don't buy packs.
yeah, packs are for drafting, right? And this is a mistake that I made a long time ago. Is when I first started playing, I'm just like, oh, I'm gonna need cards. I'll buy the deck builder toolkit. That's gonna help me build a good deck. That helped me build a deck.
Yeah.
But it wasn't FNM ready, right?
No. And, just, we've said this a million times, and we're going to say it a million times again. Magic cards are not good investments. Put it in a boring S&P fund. And also, on the same note, buying packs to open, like a booster box, even if you get a good deal, like if you buy in bulk, like a case, which is 6 boxes, usually stores will give you a small discount for buying in bulk. You are still negative EV. Even if you opened all the cards, all the packs, sold all the rares at market price, got premium pricing on your bulk, which would be like $6 or $7 per 1,000. That's really good, by the way. Usually the average is 4 or 5. And that's even if you have an area that will take it. A lot of places won't. If you got premium price for your bulk, and you sold your uncommons that are actually worth something, and you sold all your rares at market price, you are still almost always in the red. Almost always.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
So, and like, even if you aren't in the
Even if
red,
you aren't, you're making like $10.
yeah.
And think of all the work that you have to do, right?
And that's a lucky. If you're lucky, you make $10. If you're lucky.
Yeah,
And like, if you want to throw money at something to try and get lucky, go to a casino, go to play the lottery. If you're looking to make money, don't open packs with the intent.
Brawling Pit does not condone gambling or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
And I'm not saying you should do any
that.
of those things either. So, yeah, just don't open packs for the sake of opening packs, and which is also kind of my point. I'm not going to advocate to buy singles if you don't want to, but my point is don't crack packs just for the sake of cracking them. This is something that I wish I had known when I was also much younger and also just getting started. Use the pack and play limited.
Yeah, check out episode 50. We talk about what to do if you lose packs.
Yeah, play limited with them. If you get a fat pack or whatever, we've talked about it like 3 times already. Like play limited, play with your friends or whatever. And if it gets complicated remembering whose cards are what my friends and I did, let's say we both bought a fat pack, right? Well, we would do 2 rounds of sealed or something. Or like 2 rounds of draft or whatever limited format we want. And we only, each time, we would designate whose cards are whose really easily by just saying, okay, this time we're going to draft with my pack. So whenever anybody opens, they're all mine. And then vice versa. Yeah, and then you do the other way around. When you want to go for round 2, it's like, okay, these are all your packs. So whatever we open here is all yours. Super simple, super clean, not messy at all. It's so easy. It's not an excuse to be like, well, I don't want to like mess with how confusing. It's not confusing.
No, it's not at all. Nope.
It's not confusing if you don't make it confusing. So don't crack packs just for the sake of cracking packs. Play limited with them.
Yep. My next thing that I wish I would have known when I first started playing is that you should cast spells at the last possible moment. So it's not just about instant speed cards. There are cards that you shouldn't be playing main 1. For example, if you're playing your creature main 1 before you attack, there's absolutely no reason why you should be playing that creature out unless that has some ETB effects to
right.
kind of buff up your board, right?
Like if it affects combat, then obviously you want to play it main 1. But if it doesn't affect combat, then make your opponent think you have a trick in there.
Exactly. So I'll say like think about what's the last possible useful moment for you to play that card. So you have some cards that affects combat, the last possible moment that would be good. Probably either main 1 or before damage or, after blocks or something like that. All right, if you have like a vanilla creature with no flash, probably main 2. And most of the time, instant speed stuff, I'll say 90% of the time, you want to cast on your opponent's turn.
Most of the time, that's true. But on the other hand, actually a good segue into my point. One thing that I wish I had known was sometimes, not always, this is definitely the minority. I'm not saying it's not even close to 50% of the time. Easily in the minority. Sometimes you should main phase your instant.
Oh yeah. There are a lot of use cases I can think of for you to main phase your instant speed spells. So
one really super easy thing that I can think of off the top of my head, like a situation where you want to main phase your instance. Let's say you have an instant speed gain life card, right? Let's say Blessed Alliance, that's a recent card. Blessed Alliance, 2 mana, you can gain 4, there's other 2 modes. Let's say you're at 1 life against like a red deck, right?
Yeah. And they're tapped out.
Yeah, right now they're tapped out. For now, on your turn they're tapped out. You should probably cast that life gain card like right now. Because, if you're in modern, they might have Skullcrack on their turn. Or if you're not in modern, or maybe you're still in modern, I don't know. They could have 2 burn spells. So like when they go to burn you on their main phase, and then you life gain, they can burn you and just spawn. Like it's just you don't need to risk that. Just cast it now. It's gonna get cast eventually. Like probably the next turn, just cast it now. Don't risk getting blown out and losing the game immediately. So, and that's just one. It might seem like, oh, but that situation almost never comes up. I mean, kind of true, but also like those type of situations aren't as uncommon as you might think. You still, most of the time, probably closer to almost all the time, cast your instant speed spells in instant speed, but sometimes you gotta know when to not go autopilot mode and just do it.
Yeah, another example. Let's say you have a flash creature. You have a creature that's flashable, instant speed creature. So in general, you want to play it on your opponent's turn. But you gotta be careful if they're playing blue. If they're tapped out, and you have nothing to do on their turn anyways, might be better for you to play it on your main phase, so they don't counter it.
Yep, it's crazy. So sometimes you do want to main phase your instant speed stuff. Not always, probably most of the time you won't, but sometimes just be aware of that.
Yeah.
What do you got there?
Very good point. Oh, the next thing that I wish I would have known a long time ago is to play enough lands in your decks. Oh my gosh, there's so many times where I would have built a deck that was full of cool stuff, right? They're all so awesome, and I play like 10 lands. Because I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get to my lands. But no, you're not. You need the ideal amount of lands in your deck for you to have enough of them in your opening hand. It's all about the probability of drawing into the right amount of lands in your opening hand.
Preferably also throughout the game, but you know.
Yeah, so like even when you're playing like a format like Commander, a lot of people what they do when they're editing their deck is they will cut a land for a really cool card, because you know when you're playing 37 lands, one land doesn't seem that much. Big mistake.
I guess it technically
Big
isn't.
mistake. Technically,
I guess
it isn't.
Technically it isn't, but like, I don't want to entertain that thought, because I mean, you get into the slippery slope of like induction. Like, what about just one more land? What about just one more land?
Yeah, and then the next time you look at it, oh crap, I have 24 lands left. Right, because you added 10 cool cards, and now you have no lands. You're never gonna draw into those lands.
And it is like, yes, as we just said, technically, one land probably doesn't have that much of an impact. However, you are trying to make your deck hopefully you are trying to make your deck as strong as possible on average. Average being the key word here, because you're gonna hopefully play a lot of games with this deck. And so, you know, you want to make it as consistent as possible. You're hurting your consistency, even though, I mean, it's not by that much, but like, why do it? There's no reason to. Just don't hurt yourself.
Don't hurt yourself.
Just stop hitting yourself.
Yeah.
But this time, there's no bully actually making you hit yourself. It's just you. You're just slapping
you're
yourself
hitting
in the
yourself if you're cutting lands for an actual card. All right. So I mean, don't get me wrong. There are times to do it. For example, if you're cutting your 9-drop, the only 9-drop in your deck, and your highest curve becomes a 5-drop. Okay, when you're cutting that 9-drop,
yeah,
you can probably cut some lands too.
Yeah, and also, if you're like an older format like Modern or Legacy, I mean, then those guys tend to only. I'm serious, dude. Those guys are like hardcore 18 land control deck. Jeez.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
And sometimes you can take advantage of the coding of a video game. So for example, in Magic Arena, there's a deck right now that runs 13 lands. Don't touch that, because that's messing with the code of the video game. The moment you cut a land, or if you add a land, you're gonna screw up the algorithm, and you won't get the lands you need in your opening hand.
Yep. Terrible. Speaking of good deck building with lands, here's another thing that I really wish I knew. Alright, I like to think of myself as a kind of creative person. Okay, and so early on, I was like building my own wacky decks or whatever, right?
Yeah, sure.
What I wish I had known to save time was just net deck. Period. No, okay, no. The period was a joke. That was a joke. The period was a joke.
Net decking?
Just net deck, comma, until you get good at building. And the reason I say this is because if you're a new player early on, and you heard about the net decking versus making your own deck. And by the way, just for reference, net decking means you find a deck on the internet and you just copy it. Okay? There's a huge debate, and it's probably never gonna end as long as Magic exists, if you should net deck or not. Okay? And the general consensus is, if you're trying to win, you should probably net deck. Okay? But that's besides the point. What I'm saying is, this is actually targeted towards the people that like to build their own deck, but maybe they're not as good as they want to be. Here's what you can do to speed up that learning process. I'm serious. Play a bunch of net decks. Get good at a bunch of net decks. You'll see some common trends. You'll see, well, this card is here because of this card. This interaction exists because these cards go together. You'll build up your breadth of knowledge and your skill, and then go back to making your own decks. And trust me, your results will have improved significantly.
Oh yeah, not only about like seeing the interaction, you will also know the moments your opponent plays their first couple of cards. You will know exactly what deck they're playing. Again, 80-90% of the time, because the meta doesn't change that often. So once you are familiar with it enough, the moment they play Island and then the 1-drop 5/5, you're like, oh okay, they're playing Blue Temple.
Yeah, and you know like what you should be trying to do in your game. So just do it.
Make your dreams come true.
Yeah, just net deck for a little bit. I'm not saying you have to give up deck building, because I'm personally a bit of a Johnny Spike. Okay, I like building my own wacky combos, but I also have a very high standard for my deck. I don't want to just be playing like a pile of hot trash if I can't do anything with it, just for the sake of playing one combo. If I'm playing a Johnny deck, I want it. And I've played my share of Johnny and Spike deck. I mean, I've got millions of good tournament finishes, etc. So like, if I'm playing a weird wacky combo deck for fun, it still has to be good enough. It still has to be good enough, and you develop that ability and skill set by net decking. So just net deck for a little while until you get better, and then you can switch over to your Johnny mode. This is mostly targeted at people that are just starting out with making their own decks and they're not sure what to do.
Yep. Exactly. Speaking of playing well, though, this is a trend that I noticed in Commander, and I noticed that I started doing this thing and then I perform a lot better. Because I used to be a really, really bad player when I first started playing. And I would say most people are, unless you play other games like Hearthstone or whatever. But when I started playing, Magic was my first trading card game. So I had no prior knowledge coming into the game. I don't know anything about tempo and whatnot. And one thing that was beaten into me is always spend your mana efficiently, right? You always want to spend all your mana. Well, in this beautiful format called Commander, in EDH, sometimes not playing something is better than playing something. Let me explain.
Sometimes doing nothing is better than doing something.
Exactly.
Even though it can be really hard to do nothing.
Yeah. Is it really worth it to spend the 1 of 3 targeted artifact removal in your hand? Is it really worth it to blow your opponent's Soul Ring up on turn 2? Probably not. Right? Number one, you're painting a target.
Maybe it is. No, I don't know.
Number one, you're painting a giant target on your head. Like you are guaranteeing that guy's going at you the whole game, or even after that game, right?
Maybe in the parking lot he'll flash it.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. And
that's pretty bunker.
It's really bunker.
Don't flash your opponent's tires, guys. Not nice. Don't key their car and don't slash their opponent.
Yeah, definitely not. But yeah. And there are other times where you have this really, really cool creature in your hand. You have 6 mana. You have this really cool creature in your hand. You're looking at the guy across from you. Your opponent, the blue player, all his islands are up. He has 7 cards in hand. You probably shouldn't play that 6 drop. Alright? If he has a counter spell, the next guy, or the guy after, they may get their spell countered. Once you feel like he doesn't have that many counter spells in his hand anymore, then you can play your 6 drop, And that's why sometimes when you're playing against really good people, you will notice that they always have the right answer in their hand. Is because they just don't play them until they absolutely have to.
There's a saying in chess, by the way, the good player is always lucky.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
It will always feel like that.
It might, yeah, I mean, if you're like not experienced, it might seem like that. But like in reality, there's obviously no luck in chess. It's all on the board. Your pieces aren't random. But like it can seem like that. If you're inexperienced in chess and you're playing against like a really good opponent, like obviously much better than you, and you're like, man, that guy just had his bishop exactly in the right place. If it was literally on any other square, this wouldn't have happened. Or like his pawn is exactly like in the right spot or whatever, right? But like, I mean, he had to move it there eventually. He didn't just magically get there, but there's an element of skill in that to be able to say, well, my bishop is probably really good here. I'm going to preemptively put it here, and maybe sometime down the line, it'll pay off. And like that, it's the good player is always lucky. That's kind of an exaggeration because I mean, obviously, sometimes we get unlucky, but it can seem like that though if you don't know what's going on. It can really seem like that when you're like, he always has the right answer for my guy. When he probably just plays 4 of them in his deck, so it's not really that unlucky.
Yep. Yeah. He has them because he has those cards in his deck, and he
doesn't
draws
waste
a
them.
lot of cards. Yep.
He draws lots of cards and doesn't just waste it.
Yep. He only uses it on things that actually matters. Like like a lot of times you notice like that's why we always say like it's really hard to play control when you're a multiplayer. Because you always set yourself back every time you play counterspell. And it's the same thing, right? Like they don't counter your 2-mana 2/2. They're gonna counter Crit Hoof Behemoth. It's the same thing.
And like, think about it like this. You have a 1-mana shock, or you have a 3-mana Hero's Downfall that can kill anything, and your opponent plays a lousy 2/2. Which one do you think a good player would play? The shock that only kills your 2/2, or the 3-mana Hero's Downfall that literally answers everything in your deck? Which one do you think they'd play? And like when you ask it like that, the answer becomes extremely obvious to the point where it's painful.
Yep. So it's actually a trick question because a lot of you will say, "Oh, you played a shock," but the smart play is you just ignore it and let someone else deal with it until that thing swings at you.
Yeah, and if it swings at you, then you can shock it. Or if you're in standard and you only have one opponent, then you shock it.
Oh yeah, exactly.
But if it's not hitting you,
who cares? Who cares?
That's someone else's problem.
Yeah, exactly. It's not there. It's like it's not there.
Exactly.
So don't spend answers to answer cards that are not there for you.
So my last few things, I think I can only come up with like 1 or 2 more. Have nothing to do with actual gameplay, but I still think it's really. I wish I knew that when I was getting playing.
Okay.
Sleeve everything.
Oh yeah.
And when I say everything, there's air quotes around everything. Okay. When I say everything, what I mean is if you're playing with cards, sleeve them. I mean, you don't have to sleeve all your bulk. Whatever, that's fine. But if you got rare, expensive cards, or it's a deck you're playing, sleeve them. Even if the deck you're playing is just bulk and it's not expensive, sleeve it anyway.
Oh yeah, makes shuffling a lot easier.
Yeah, it just shuffles easier.
All right, when you're drafting,
sleeve it.
If there's a real sleeve your deck obviously, but if there's a really expensive card in your pool, also sleeve that, right? I feel like this is like super obvious, but a lot of people don't do this.
Yep. There's only 2 reasons why you shouldn't sleeve in a draft. Okay. Now, there are 3 tiers of players in draft. This is also related. It might seem like I just jumped into a different topic, but these are very highly intertwined. Okay, there's 3 tiers of players in the draft. 1. And this is F&M, by the way. 1. This is your new player. Okay? They usually don't sleeve. Sometimes they do, but usually not. Very rarely. Okay? You're intermediate to advanced player. Alright?
Yeah.
They always sleeve. They always sleeve no matter what.
Always do. Yep.
Okay. And then here's your 3rd type of draft player. Okay? The 3rd type of draft player is the guy that's been to the Pro Tour or has like day 2, like all the SCG events or whatever, right? This is like he's a really good player. Okay? It's a 50-50 if he sleeps.
Yep.
Okay. So you have to watch out. Okay? Because if you're playing against someone that doesn't sleeve, it's very polarizing. Either they're a god or they're awful.
Yeah.
It's one of the 2. It's never in the middle. Because all the intermediate to advanced players, they always sleeve no matter what. Doesn't matter.
Just watch out if you see the guy who doesn't sleeve and has no playmat. He came here, just in his jeans and t-shirt and doesn't even have a backpack. He walk in here, he play with his deck unsleeved, shovel his deck.
If he seems like he knows what he's doing,
and
you're
then,
in trouble.
And then someone calls Judge, and then he goes answer Judge call.
Yeah. So that it goes back to the sleeving part. It just makes it easier to shuffle up texture cards if there's open containers on the table or whatever, and people are being dumb and you didn't notice or whatever. Just sleeve your stuff, even in the draft. Just if you're playing with it or expensive, just sleeve it.
Yep. Yeah, that also brings to my last point is I really wish I would have known this, and I lost some bulk because I didn't know this. Don't store your cards on the ground, right? If you have a box, don't store it on the ground floor, or worse, do not store it in the basement. Especially if you live in like really moist areas.
Have you heard of the horror stories of people's basements getting flooded?
Oh
And then
boy,
their
yeah,
magic cards get ruined too?
that's the worst. All right.
Yep.
If you only have one story, put it like up top in a tall shelf or something.
Well, I mean, it doesn't even have to be that tall. Like, just don't have it on the ground. That's
Yeah,
it.
don't
Like,
have it
put
on
it on
the
a
ground.
table. Put it in your on the middle shelf. It doesn't even have to be a tall shelf. Just not on the ground.
Yeah, do not put anything, any of your cards on the ground. It's
For
pretty bad.
long term. For
Pretty
long
bad.
term, I should say. Like
Yep.
if you're like stuck on table space or short on table space and you're playing Magic for the night, I mean, whatever. Put them. It doesn't matter.
Yep.
But like for long term, do not keep them on the ground.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
And speaking of storing cards, do not store your cards with rubber bands. I know it's so easy to do it, but first of all, the only time that you should ever think about using rubber bands is if you have 60 card deck, right? Like, because why would you store your bulk with rubber bands? It doesn't make you need some really thick rubber bands, right?
Yep.
Okay, and second of all, if you do have a deck, it should be sleeved, and you're gonna ruin those sleeves if you use a rubber band. So don't use a rubber band. And third, if you really don't have any extra sleeves, and you really want to use a rubber band, look at yourself in the mirror and say, my cards deserve better than this, and don't do it. Because what can happen is when you're taking the rubber band off, you can damage the side of your cards. Anything can happen with those rubber bands on, just don't do it. And plus, you look like a big noob when you pick out your deck and they have rubber bands all over them. Not
Yeah,
gonna lie.
exactly. So, yeah, don't try not to do this. Like, these are things that we wish we have known when we first started playing. If you want to really want to use your rubber bands, then do it when you're a god. Then no one can say anything to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. When
I
you're
mean, that's what I do.
yeah, when you're the person in jeans and t-shirts and answer judge calls in place with no sleeve and rubber band,
Yep.
everyone is scared of you. It's part of your intimidation tactic.
Yeah,
So
it is.
go
it
ahead
is.
and use it when you get to that level, but before that, try
I
to
just did
avoid
that
it.
last week. I feel a little bad.
Why?
Oh, because I went to a draft. I did exactly what we just did. Jeans, t-shirt, no backpack, no sleeves, nothing, no dice. Like, I didn't even have pen and paper. I asked him. I kind of like went BM, like, hey, can I borrow your pen and paper? Like, kind of thing. And I threw out that draft.
Not even can I borrow your dice.
No, I'm like, hey, can I borrow some pen and paper? I threw out that draft.
Oh my gosh. You're a terrible person.
The first guy had it coming. Okay,
Uh-huh.
he said, he was like, he was acting all cocky, and he's like, oh, this guy doesn't have sleeves. He doesn't know what he's doing.
Is it your first time? Did he ask you if it's the first time you've been through that store?
He asked me if it was my first time at the store, and I said, yeah, I've never been here before. But he never asked if I'd played Magic before.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't upset. He took it like a champ. But, I mean, that happened. I
Alright.
was that guy.
Well, all right. Okay. But, anyways, these were the things that we wish we have known, all right, when we first started playing. What are some things that you wish you would have known when you first started? Let us know in our social media. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter at Brawling Pit. Reddit at r/Brawling Pit. You can email us at brawlingpitmtg@gmail.com. Or you can visit our official website, brawlingpit.com. As always, I've been Johnathan, and he has been Jacob. See you guys next time. Serum Powder is a good card.
No, it's not.
It's all right. I mean, we talked about it a couple episodes ago. Whenever they implemented the London Mulligan meme. You remember?
No, I don't.
Well, I guess that's it then. All right. As always,
Yep.
you can find us on our social media. You can find
Wait,
us on
we already
Facebook.
did that part. That was like a couple seconds ago.
Oh, okay. Well, so a couple episodes ago, we talked about London Mulligan, which is a new mulligan they're testing in the London Mythic Championship. And then they finally released a clarification on how Serum Powder will work. So basically,
Well, how does it work? Tell me. Tell me
Okay.
how it works.
so here is a scenario. Say you mulligan twice, so you didn't like your first two hands, so you draw back to 7. And this time you have to pitch 2 cards. But let's say in your 7 you have a serum powder in there. Let's say but the serum powder doesn't check whether or not you can mulligan until you pitch those 2 cards. So by the time you can actually use serum powder for you to trigger your mulligan thing, you would have already been down to 5 cards. So serum powder would allow you to put your hand then back to the bottom, and then you would draw 5 instead of drawing 7. You would have pitched before serum powder can check whether or not you can use it. So
That's
it works.
sad.
Yeah, it works, but not the way you want it to work.
What a nerf the serum powder did.
I mean, it wasn't. It was neither nerf or buff. It's just it didn't change.
It's a nerf.